Jake, Sharp, and Shapiro. Special guest Bob Irwin in studio as well, former owner of the gun store. You know, there's a story I didn't bring up that I wanted to because I think it's important and it's very relevant to UNLV in Las Vegas. And then I will go into this Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump love affair, this 1 hour conversation they had today. We had a former UNLV player. He was a fantastic player. His name was Bryce DeJean Jones. And he got an NBA contract. He got his dream job. And I interviewed him probably dozens of times. Good kid, extremely competitive, had his issues, chemistry issues with the team.
Very talented, too.
And, yeah, very talented. He had just gotten an NBA contract. He just signed a 3-year deal. Everybody was so happy for this kid. He shows up at what he thought was his girlfriend's house. Now, I don't know if he was drunk or if he was on drugs. I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is that he went into the wrong apartment, banging on the door. And the guy who owned that apartment, he basically broke in to the wrong place. And the guy that owned that place shot him and killed him. And this was a young man. I believe he was 22 or 23 years old. So much promise. Absolutely horrible situation, but it's one of those things where you better make sure you're banging on the right door.
Well, and that's an example. DeJean Jones, if I recall, he was about 6'5", 220, so he's a pretty physically imposing guy.
I don't know if he was that tall, but he was very athletic.
He was definitely 6'5".
Yeah, so that's one of those stories where I say it could go the other way, where the person banging on the door could make a mistake.
Right.
So that was a horrible situation. But I want to talk about this Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin phone conversation. They spoke on the phone for an hour. They spoke about the Mueller report. They seemed to laugh it off, where Vladimir Putin said the Russian hoax was a mountain and then ended up being a mouse. Those are the words of Vladimir Putin, according to Donald Trump. Now, the problem I have with this phone call, in the Mueller report, there were many pages that talked about Russian collusion in the election. Now, let's forget about Donald Trump for a second. Nothing to do with Donald Trump, right, except for the fact that it could have affected the outcome, at least according to Donald Trump, and that's probably why he didn't bring it up. And an hour-long conversation with Vladimir Putin, arguably one of the most important topics, and Donald Trump does not bring it up. Speaking to reporters in the Oval Office after his first exchange with Mr. Putin since the release of the report by the special counsel Robert Mueller, he asserted that the Russian government interfered in the 2016 presidential election in sweeping and systematic fashion. Mr. Trump said today, quote, he did not talk about Russian interference with Mr. Putin. Not before and not in future elections. I find that to be disgusting, embarrassing, and I think Donald Trump, once again, cares more about himself, and he wants to make sure everyone believes that he won the election fairly. And to me, that's why he's not bringing it up. I don't know what it is with Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, but he never takes a stand with Putin, it seems to me, when he meets with him on anything. And I know everybody likes to say, oh, toughest president when it comes to Russia. Not when he meets with Vladimir Putin. How on earth do you not bring it up? Let me tell you something. I don't like to defend Barack Obama, but I will in this instance, because Obama confronted Putin about this and told him about it and told him to knock it off. Donald Trump refuses to bring this up. He insists that Putin had nothing to do with it, and he doesn't bring it up in this phone conversation. I think that speaks volumes around Donald Trump, and I want to ask the callers out there, do you guys have a problem with this? Your president, my president, many of whom, many people that call in, you seem to support Donald Trump. Do you have a problem for an hour-long conversation with Putin? He doesn't even bring up Russian interference. Doesn't even bring it up.
Do you know what was discussed?
Yeah, they talked about a lot of things. They talked about North Korea. They talked about the Mueller report. I noticed how he didn't fail to talk about that. He talked about the Mueller report.
Current issues, not things from 2 years ago.
This is not something from 2 years ago, because this is the future of our country. And even Bob admitted this to me off the air. They'll probably interfere again in 2020. I have no doubt that they will.
But we don't know the degree of interference in 2016.
Yes, we do. We know a good portion of the interference. Yes, we do. And it's in the Mueller report. You can read it.
And it was what? Facebook accounts created?
It was more than that.
A combination of Facebook accounts created?
It was absolutely more than that. And in the report, Robert Mueller.
And based on your guess, how many votes do you think were swayed due to the collusion?
I have no idea. It could be one vote. It could be a million votes. If Russia is interfering in our election, to me, it's just as relevant if it's one vote or a million votes. And the fact that Donald Trump did not bring it up, to me, is an absolute and utter disgrace. It is an absolute disgrace that he didn't bring it up. By the way, speaking of North Korea, the mother of Otto Warmbier, she made a rare appearance in Washington today. This poor lady, the North Korean evil, murderous dictator regime did to her poor son. Another evil dictator that Donald Trump seems to side with. And the excuse I always hear is, well, he's trying to make relations. Well, that hasn't gone anywhere. You think Kim Jong-un is just going to give up his nuclear weapons? Here you go, Mr. Trump. I seem to like you. Thank you for kissing my ass. Here you go. Okay? Warmbier, the mother, expressed doubts about President Trump's steadfastness. She said, unless we keep the pressure on North Korea, they're not going to change. I'm very afraid that we're going to let up on this pressure. And you know what? I agree with her 100%. We'll take some calls on that. What do you think about Donald Trump not bringing up Russian interference with Vladimir Putin today in an hour-long phone call? They laughed about the Mueller report. They laughed about it together. What do you think about that? 702-257-5396, the number to call. Again, that number to call, 257-5396. Let's start with Larry. Larry, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. What's on your mind?
Oh, been laughing about the Mueller report for a while. But no, it's over and done with.
No, it's not. That's factually inaccurate. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. You're wrong.
Okay, they're searching Mueller's opinion piece on the report.
It's not an opinion piece. It's an investigation so you can call it an opinion piece all you want to, but it's not.
Yeah,
you're the one that's calling in with your opinion. I read the report. I don't know if you did, but
obviously didn't read very much of it because this is
really?
piece.
So if it's all done, then why did they not exonerate him on obstruction? And why is there at least 10 instances of obstruction in the report? Please explain that to me, Larry.
Well, there is none. But
yes, no, incorrect. Why don't you read the report and then call me back? There are at least 10 instances where you can make the case for obstruction.
Because you have to know the intent.
Why don't you answer what I just said? I just said there are at least 10 instances of obstruction.
You have to determine the intent of each one of those.
So when he says to fire Mueller or fire McGahn or fire whoever was involved in this investigation, what do you think his intent was, Larry? Since you seem to know everything.
Fire that person.
And why? Larry, let me tell you something. When you want to fire somebody, usually there's a reason for it. So please explain to me why you wanted to fire all those people involved in the Mueller investigation, including Robert Mueller himself. Please explain to me why.
Oh, probably because he thought he was biased.
Right, and guess what that's called? Okay, good. I'm so glad you were intellectually honest, Larry. So you're saying he wanted to fire Robert Mueller because he felt that Mueller was biased towards him. Guess what that's called, Larry? That's called obstruction. Yes, it is.
It has no effect on the investigation.
You are what? Robert Mueller was in charge of the whole investigation. What are you talking about? How could you say? Excuse me. How could you say the guy? How could you say the guy that was in charge of the entire investigation, if he was fired, had no outcome over the investigation? How could you say something that ridiculous?
The investigation continues.
The investigation continues. So you're saying it would have had no outcome. He admitted that he wanted Comey fired because of the start of the Russian investigation and supposed hoax. You don't think that's obstruction?
Not at all.
Okay, well, okay.
100% within his rights to fire Comey.
Okay. All right.
Even,
all right. Okay, Larry.
Rosenstein said he should have been fired.
Okay, yeah, Rosenstein, another one that just stepped down. Thank you for the call, Larry. I appreciate it. He just said it best, that the person that is in control of the entire investigation, if he was fired, it would have had no outcome over the investigation. The most idiotic thing I've ever heard in my life. 257-5396. Let's go to Bob. Bob, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind, Bob?
Hi, I was calling the conversation that President Trump had with Putin today.
Yes, sir.
The Mueller report not coming up, I mean, you say it's an important subject.
No, the Mueller report did come up. They laughed about it together. What didn't come up was Russian interference.
I'm sorry. What I was referring to was him not talking about interfering with the election.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's an important issue, but
yeah, it is.
In reality, we interfere with elections all around the world, and we have for decades.
What election have we interfered with that could have controlled the outcome? Please, I would love to hear about that.
Well, during the Obama administration, they tried to change or affect the outcome of the election over in Israel. So, I mean, and they did that.
What did Barack Obama do that? What did Obama specifically do that was illegal in changing the outcome?
They only dumped about $50 million into the campaign against him.
Okay, well, putting money into a campaign is not illegal. Interfering with an election is, so that's not factually accurate.
I agree with what you're saying. What I'm saying is, like, you would almost have to be naive or ignorant to think that.
All right, let's just say you're right.
In politics, things aren't done.
Bob, let's just say you're right.
Under the table all the time.
I understand, Bob.
So what I'm saying, having said that, what is he supposed to say? Putin, don't screw with our elections anymore.
Well, number one, that's what Barack Obama said.
The last time it was.
Well, I'll tell you what he shouldn't do. He shouldn't ignore it. I'll tell you, Bob, what he shouldn't do. He shouldn't ignore it. He should bring it up and discuss it with Vladimir Putin. And when Putin says, I had nothing to do with it, but our own intelligence says that is contrary, then at the very least, leadership, our leader, our president of the United States, should absolutely 100% bring it up and talk about it and make sure that we as a country will not stand for it and will not put up for it. I appreciate the call, Bob. We have plenty of other callers we will get to right now at 257-5396. Let's go to Neil. Neil, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. How are you, Neil?
Good. How are you doing? I just tuned into your show. I'm new to Vegas, but just to get right to the point, I know you haven't lost sight of this fact that the FBI, CIA, the Justice Department, Robert Barr, was it Bill Barr? They're all subordinates to the President of the United States. The President can fire anybody he wants, okay? Mm-hmm. Maybe Russia is guilty of doing some cheesy advertising during the last campaign.
It was more than cheesy advertising. You're diminishing what they did.
I'm not diminishing what I'm trying to put it in the proper context. I think it's an overreaction, an over-exaggeration.
So you think another foreign entity like Russia interfering in our elections is an exaggeration, and you don't think Donald Trump should bring it up against Vladimir?
I voted in that election, and I was living in New York, and I'm looking over my shoulder and asking myself, I don't know what everybody's talking about. I mean, what?
Well, then maybe you should read the Mueller report because it's all in the Mueller report.
Brainwash us?
No, read the Mueller report. Read the 20 pages in the Mueller report, which talks about Russian interference.
Mueller is a subordinate of the President of the United States, too. Mm-hmm. And furthermore, if you study American history, you will know that Alexander Hamilton and James Madison are the primary architects of the United States Constitution.
What does that have to do with Russian interference?
They designed it so they understood the importance of having a strong executive branch of government.
What does that have to do with Russian? What does that have to do with the Russian interference in the elections and the fact that Donald Trump didn't bring it up against the evil, murderous dictator in Vladimir Putin?
It's over. It's done.
Okay. Well, you are. It is sad that there are people like you living in this country. Sadly, you have moved to Las Vegas, and we've got another Nimrod. Sadly, you live in Las Vegas and you live in this country, and you think we shouldn't even bring it up. The fact that a foreign entity is interfering in our elections, and you seem to be okay with that. Well, you should go on the list with Donald Trump because you sound like a Donald Trump apologist, and you seem to be wearing the Vladimir Putin knee pads. You people like you are just a disgrace, in my opinion, to this country. 257-5396. Let's go to Scott. Poor Bob Irwin is sitting here, and he's like, what did I get myself into? Scott, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind, Scott?
Hey, you seem to be on the wrong side of this. I don't know why everybody's calling in trying to explain to you that, this whole collusion issue that you're trying to...
Nope, haven't said collusion. Haven't said that once in this show.
Right. So, okay. So without collusion, how can there be obstruction? There's no case.
Collusion? Okay, well, that's completely... I'm going to tell you...
that we are innocent until proven guilty?
I'm going to tell you, if you'll let me, the fact of collusion and obstruction are two completely different entities. So you are 100% wrong. When he wanted Comey to be fired because of the Russian investigation, that has nothing to do with Russian collusion. When he wanted Mueller to be let go and he wanted someone else to take over the investigation, that has nothing to do with collusion. That is.
Who were the first people to call for Comey to be removed?
That has nothing to do with what I just said. That has nothing to do. Excuse me. That has nothing to do with Barack Obama. That has nothing to do with Barack Obama. When you want the FBI director to be fired because of the investigation into yourself, that is the definition of obstruction, whether you like it or not. I know that doesn't fit your political narrative, Scott, but that's just the bottom line. That's just a fact. 257-5396 is the number to call. Again, 257-5396. Let's go to David. David, thanks for calling in. What's up?
Obstruction, does the act have to be completed, or does it just want to?
Does the act have to?
Obstruction act did he complete? Did he fire Mueller?
That is under interpretation with members of Congress. There is no.
No, I'm asking you.
You're asking me what I think. I will give you. I will answer that. Listen,
okay.
if let's just say hypothetically, a police officer.
No. I don't want hypothetical. I want to know the actual act of obstruction that Trump did.
Okay, well, guess what? You don't do the show. I do, and J.D. Sharp does, and I'm going to answer the question the way I want to, whether you'd like it or not. Okay, so you can either listen or
you are, because you don't like facts and truth.
Okay,
That's fine.
I was gonna give you first of all, I do like facts and truth. I'm honest. You just don't like the fact that I criticize, your butt boy Donald Trump. Okay, but here's the thing. I will answer.
Well, how good's your dental plan over there where you work?
How good is my? So are you threatening me on the air? Is that what you're doing, you idiot?
Well, no,
is that what you're doing?
You said to only get threatened for a week is okay. Remember when you were talking about
Excuse me?
kids?
You want to threaten me on the air? Is that what you want to do, David? Is that what you want to do?
I'm just curious.
You're just curious?
Call everybody names all the time. Do you ever think there's going to be consequences for
you're not
your
going to. Let me tell you something, buddy. You're not going to bully me on the air. I'm still going to answer your stupid question, okay? Yes, I will answer your question. If I'm the president of the United States, which I'm not, but if I was, and somebody from the FBI director, in this case Comey, is investigating me for wrongdoings that I might or might not have done, and I'm going to fire him based on that, that is 100% collusion. Now, how many teeth do you have, you moron?
No.
Goodbye. I hope you lose all your teeth tonight, okay? I really do. Goodbye. Get a good dentist. 257-5396, the number to call, 257-5396. Let's go to Louise. Louise, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind? By the way, I do have a full set of teeth, by the way. Louise, thanks for calling in. What's up?
Hey there. I just have a question for you. You're really concerned about this so-called Russian interference. But explain to me how that's any different than having Miss Nancy Pelosi, who wants every illegal immigrant to be able to vote in our elections. Please, mister, could you tell me how that could be any different?
I will gladly. First of all, those are two completely different scenarios, and I will say I do not.
They're not, because it's an
Are you going to let me answer your question? Are you going to
foreign entity.
Are you going to let me answer? Are you going to let me answer your question, or are you going to interrupt me?
You talk to everybody else that talks on the radio.
I'll talk over you then. Pelosi, I am not a. Okay, let me know when you're done with your right-wing rant, and then I'll answer your question. Let me know. You want to continue with your rant, or would you like me to answer the question? Thank you. I am not you're not done yet? Okay. I am not a defender of Pelosi. I think she is a moron. Her immigration policies have not worked, like many Republicans and Democrats in the past have not worked. I do not believe that illegals should be allowed to vote. I believe we need to vet these people. We need to make sure they are not dangerous to society. So I disagree with Pelosi. So just like I disagree with the way Donald Trump handled this, and just like I disagree that Russians should interfere in our elections, I also disagree just as strongly with Nancy Pelosi. I do not agree with her immigration policy, and I would never vote for Nancy Pelosi. So what do you think about that?
So if our president wasn't guilty of it, why the hell would he even bring it up?
Russia is guilty of it. What are you talking about? Russia interfered in our elections. So you mean to tell me because you mean to tell me? Why don't you read the Mueller report, huh? Why don't you do that? Because clearly you don't know what you're talking about. See, here's the difference.
There would have been legal action.
Here's the difference. I just honestly answered your question about Nancy Pelosi. You're probably surprised that I answered it that way, and you don't know how to have an intellectual conversation, so you're just going to scream at me. I answered your question honestly and appropriately. I do not like Nancy Pelosi. I don't like her immigration policies. I don't like many of the Democrats' policies when it comes to illegals. I think it's a joke. They should not be allowed to have a driver's license. They should not be allowed to have credit cards. But that has nothing to do with Russian interference. When Russia interferes in our elections, we need to make sure it doesn't happen again. And when our CIA and our own intelligence tells us that it happened, and even in the Mueller report it happens, and when he meets with this evil, murderous dictator today and Vladimir Putin for an hour and doesn't bring it up, that is a problem. 257-5396, the number to call. Mike, you're next. What's up, Mike?
Hey, Kool-Aid Brian. Just checking in. Just wanted to let you know that you're being very disrespectful to every single one of your callers.
Mm-hmm.
And to berate on them and say that they're not being intellectually honest.
Well, you can give me a detention, Mike, okay? You could keep me after school for a detention, okay?
Okay, yeah, but to say that, okay, we colluded with Russia.
Where did I say that? Excuse me, Mike. You're saying something again that's not factually accurate. Where did I say that America colluded with Russia? When did I say that?
The Russians interfered with our election.
You just said that's not what you said. You just said that I said that we colluded with Russia.
Brian, they've been doing that in every election of ours.
Oh, so it's okay for you then? It's okay then? It's okay? It's okay with Mike? Who's drinking? You're drinking the Vladimir Putin Kool-Aid. It's okay for you? It's okay?
It's trying to downplay that Hillary...
Here we go, bringing up Hillary again. Typical idiot who brings up Hillary Clinton and doesn't stay with facts.
Oh, yeah, she didn't pay for the dossier.
There you go. Let's talk about somebody that is not in office. That makes a lot of sense, Mike. Let's just skip. Let's talk about the dossier and let's skip over Russian interference. Okay, great. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for the call, Mike. Another intelligent caller. Thank you for calling in. 257-5396. I'm sitting across from Bob Irwin and J.D. Sharp, and they're just like, what's going on? I don't know, J.D., what's going on? We've got a lot of idiots that are calling in today. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do?
Just keep up the good work, man.
257-5396.
Keep fighting that good fight.
Let's go to Doug. Doug, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. Doug, what's on your mind?
First of all, I guess the last thing I would expect any president to do is tell us everything that they tell every single leader of the world.
So you do believe he brought up Russian interference then? Is that what you're saying, Doug?
So if Russia, well, I won't say if, because then you'll talk over me. They did what they did. Trump can be saying stuff to him, but not necessarily publicly. If you blow up a relationship between two world leaders, then where are you going to be in the future when you need to talk?
So you do believe that when Donald Trump is on a stage with Vladimir Putin, and when our CIA says that Russia interfered, which they did, and when Trump is asked about that with Putin on a world stage, and Trump answers the question by saying, well, I talked to Putin about that, and Putin said that he wasn't involved, he knew nothing about it, so I don't see why they would. You're okay with that?
It's not that I'm okay with it. It's that I think that different things can be going on behind the scenes between any president and any.
So you believe
they say things publicly to keep people from losing faith.
All right, so let's just let me go with you. Okay, so let's go with this for a second. So you believe that even though he told the media today he did not bring up Russian interference, and even though he told everyone on a world stage last year that he believed Vladimir Putin, you mean to tell me that behind closed doors you think he tells Vladimir Putin something else? Do you realize how ridiculous that is?
Honestly, no, I don't think it's ridiculous.
All right, okay, you're entitled to your opinion.
They can be behind the scenes talking about what's going on. And, okay. Let's face it, everybody's messing with everybody's elections worldwide. And if everybody called everybody on every one of them,
all right,
we'd be blowing up all the relations.
All right, Doug, you're entitled to your opinion, Doug, but according to you, I just can't believe how lackadaisical some people are. Well, it happens all the time. Countries have been doing it for years. So let's just let Russia meddle in our elections. There's nothing wrong with that. It's absolutely fine. God, I am just in shock right now. I am in shock. The number to call to be a part of the conversation is 257-5396. Again, that number to call is 257-5396. Next caller we have on the line is Jim. Jim, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind, Jim?
Hey, Brian, this is Jim. I'm a Republican. It's my second-time caller. I called the night you were talking about Trump and his comments he made with John McCain.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm taking my wife to see Bill and Hillary. We're going to be in the second row. My wife's a lovely lady in a wheelchair. She's with her handsome husband. If you see us come by, we'd like to meet you.
Jim. I appreciate that.
That's all I got to say. I love your show.
Thank you.
I like the conversation.
Thank you, Jim.
I agree with both parties as comments are being made.
Right.
But like I said, we're going to be there Sunday night, and I hope we can run into you.
Jim, how much did you pay for those tickets? I'm just curious because I got one for free. I'm just curious.
Oh, don't even ask. My wife bought them, and they were very expensive.
Jim, if I see you guys, I will happily say hello, and I do appreciate the phone call. Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
All right, you too.
Talk to you later.
Thank you. 257-5396 is the number to call. I believe our next caller is, who would that be? Anthony. Anthony, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good, Anthony. What's on your mind?
I'm driving. I think that it's a shame that all these people who are defending Trump, when it's obvious, collusion is obvious. You don't give your polling data to Russian people, and then expect a change. And so that's crazy. Collusion is obvious. Obstruction is obvious. You don't have to complete it. You just have to order it. The man was ordering it.
Right. Yeah, I
think that's the problem with Bill Clinton, why he got impeached.
Yeah. Anthony, you bring up a good point, Anthony. The reason why I'm not talking about collusion and I haven't accused him of collusion is because the Mueller report came out and the collusion part seems to be done with. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that I'm trying to move on to the obstruction stuff because Mueller did not exonerate him. Barr did not exonerate him of obstruction. And when you look at the actual report and all the instances of what I believe are obstruction, I think they can do something about it, Anthony. I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. It's good to hear a different point of view. I appreciate that, Anthony. Thank you for the call. The number is 257-5396. Again, that number to call is 257-5396. And I believe, why don't we go with, who's the next caller, Johnny? I have no idea who the next caller is. Dante, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. How are you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Dante, you're on. What's up?
Hi, I'm just calling about your original question about why Donald Trump didn't really mention it when he was talking to Putin.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not really going to try to defend Putin or Trump, but I'm just saying from Putin's perspective, and it's an awkward diplomatic situation dealing with a guy like that, I imagine. I don't think he really respected Obama, and I think the Clinton one deal, I don't think he really respected the American institution. And I understand that you would want it to stop if it was happening. I get that perfectly well, but I think at this point Donald Trump's just trying to get Putin open to the idea of respecting any American type of government figure. And I think throwing that in the middle right now may not be the best thing to do.
Okay, perhaps.
Just kind of antagonizing the guy.
You eloquently made your point, and as you can tell, I did not talk over you or scream at you because you sound like an intelligent person. We agree somewhat. You made some good points there, but here's the thing. When he's asked on a national stage about this, why doesn't he just answer the question like this, no comment? Or if he wants to talk about, say, look, our CIA said this, Vladimir Putin said this, we need to find out what happened, and we're going to continue to talk about that with Mr. Putin. But Donald Trump doesn't do that. He just wears the knee pads, and he just continues to kiss the butt of Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un. And I just think on a world stage, Dante, and this is all I'm saying, I think it's the wrong way to go about it.
You gave me some food for thought, and I could see definitely with the no comment way, too, even though that is an awkward thing to say.
Right. Okay. Fair enough, Dante. I understand your point. I think that's fair, and I appreciate the phone call. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you have a good one.
All right, you too. 257-5396. That is a fair phone call. If you notice, Dante didn't say, we're just going to pull this stuff under the rug. We're just going to pull this Russian nerve. They've been doing it for years, so it's okay. Just completely ridiculous. 257-5396. Merrick, you're next. Merrick, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
I just happened to tune in to your program again.
Yes, sir. I'm glad you did.
I was playing basketball, and I'm done. And every time I hear you talk, it's always about Trump. Can't you talk about any other topic than Trump?
Well, for the first hour of the show, we were talking about gun control and gun violence. How can you say, why don't you talk about another topic?
I was playing b-ball.
Well,
I was on the court.
That's not my fault.
I was shooting hoops.
Well, that's not my fault. I'm glad you sound like a young man. I'm glad you were shooting hoops. I bet you're in good shape and you're going to live a long, healthy life. But with all due respect, Merrick, for the first hour of the show, we have a very fantastic guest, Bob Irwin, in studio, who is a gun specialist. He understands the gun laws, and we've had a very interesting talk about that. If you just
I believe in the Second Amendment.
Okay, thank you. So do I. But apparently you don't believe in listening to my show from the start of the show, but calling in 90 minutes into it and making assumptions about my show. Apparently you believe in that as well. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, Merrick, that's fine. That's fine. You can call in any time and make all the assumptions you want. 257-5396. Always like it when Merrick calls. He was shooting hoops today. You think he's a baller?
Yeah, I'm sure he is a baller.
Do you still shoot hoops, Bob? How old are you, by the way? What is your? Can I ask you that on the air?
Cut me in half and count me. I'm 75.
Congratulations. I hope I can make it there. You're tall too. You're like 6'3", right? Did you play hoops? Speaking of hoops, did you play sports in high school? No?
No, I played.
You didn't?
Hunting.
Okay. Well, I want to talk about hunting next segment. We'll get there. 257-5396. Garrett, you're next. Thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. How are you?
Hey, what's up, man?
What's on your mind, Garrett?
I got a question. So how did Russia interfere with the elections?
It's in the Mueller report. Do you want? I'm not going to go through every single detail.
Right. But I mean, what, they exposed Hillary Clinton's emails or what?
Well, I will read the statement in the Mueller report that pretty much sums everything up. This is according to Mr. Mueller in the report. He said the Russian government interfered in the 2016 presidential election in sweeping and systematic fashion. And I will also add that if they helped Hillary Clinton, which they didn't, but let's just say they did, and let's just say anybody interferes in our election, Republican, Democrat, any country, it is wrong. And I'm sure you would agree with that.
No, I'm asking specifically what they did to sway the election.
I mean, I can go over it. I mean, I don't have
right. All I know is that they leaked some emails, right? They were insecure, that they were totally open. They were open to attack. Because their password was password, and she has servers in her house. Like, and she's sending.
Well, it's in the report. It's in the report, Garrett. With all due respect,
I'm just saying, anybody else with a security clearance would be in prison for that. Anybody else. If you're a top level military official or whoever you are.
Okay, so let me just get this right.
Security clearance and you're sending
I understand.
emails via personal
so if you're Okay, fine. So if we want to talk about security clearances, do you have a problem with Jared Kushner getting a security clearance or Ivanka Trump getting a security clearance? Because why would you? Right. Well, it seems to me that everybody underneath the president had an issue with it except Donald Trump. But you don't have a problem with that. But you want to talk about Hillary Clinton? See, this is what I'm talking about.
Because she violated her.
So you don't have an issue with Jared Kushner? You don't have a problem with Kushner or Ivanka Trump getting security clearances when everybody underneath the president did have an issue with it, but you don't have a problem with that. But it seems to me everybody else did. But it seems to be very ironic to me that you bring up Hillary Clinton, but when I ask you a question to see if you're being intellectually honest, you're not.
I'm not talking about that.
But I am. I'm trying to find out if you're.
Anyone can get a security clearance. If you can pass a background check, you can get a security clearance.
Not true.
It's that easy.
That's not true. That's not true.
Of course it is. Yeah.
There are other ways of getting security clearances besides just a very simple background check. There's plenty of other things that they look for, and that's why there are issues with Jared Kushner and concerns with him and Ivanka Trump. But you don't want to talk about that because you're a Republican, right?
What were the issues? No, I'm asking what the issues are. I don't know. Maybe you can educate me.
Well, why don't you look it up? I don't have the time. I don't have the time to educate you.
I'm telling you.
Well, I don't want you to tell me anymore because you're not making any sense. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. I want to talk to Bob Irwin, who's been waiting here patiently, by the way. He's like, what did I get myself into? I want to talk a little bit about hunting. JD, you've never hunted before, have you? Have you ever hunted?
Never have.
No? You haven't. All right. Well, I want to talk to Bob about hunting because I have some strong opinions about that. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM 720 AM KDWN.